everybody, it's Martin from the Washboard Resonators, and I am holding this 1925 to 28 Windsor Banjo, and it's a very interesting instrument, and I basically fell into being a banjo player by accident. So in this week's guitar story, we're going to find out more. The story starts in 2003. I just moved to Leeds, but hadn't moved from my old family doctors where I grew up. So I'd come back to go to the doctors one day, and after I'd seen the doctor, I went into the village of Slaithwaite where the doctors were, and there was an antique shop on the corner there. And I walked in and I was looking around, and the lady that ran it came along and said, "Oh, are you looking for anything in particular?" And I just said, "Oh, well, any kind of old instruments." And she said, "Oh, that's strange. My husband called me earlier today to say we'll sell his banjo, which is upstairs." So I went up, opened the banjo case, not expecting anything fancy. And this was lying there. This beautiful 1920s banjo. And I looked at it and I strummed it, and it sounded great and it looked good, and I could see the neck was fine, it wasn't bent or twisted. I went downstairs kind of in shock, and I said, how much do you want for that banjo? And she said, he said £150. And again I was shocked, because that's not a lot of money. That's probably £200 in today's money with inflation. $250 or something for a 1920s banjo in today's money. I said, "Oh yeah, I'll take that." So when I came back with the money, the husband was there. He said, "Oh, are you buying the banjo?" I said, "Yeah," and he told me a story. So he bought it to learn on about, he said he'd had it maybe 12 or 13 years. Then he just bought a much better banjo. I said, "Oh, where did you buy it from?" He said, "Well, I bought it from the old antique shop in Slaithwaite, that's now where the Monsoon Curry restaurant is." And I said, I used to go in there with my mum. I remember a banjo that I thought was beautiful that hung between the two windows on the side wall." And he said, "That's the banjo that I bought about 12 or 13 years ago." And I said, "Oh, I remember that. I was probably 9 or 10 or 8, well, 8 or 9. So I gave him the money, walked out, and I walked maybe a couple of miles back to the village that I grew up in. I walked into the garden, and my dad said, "What's that you've got there?" I said, I bought a banjo." I said, "Let's get it out then, let's have a go." So we got the banjo out. So I'd never thought I'd be a banjo player, but I always loved banjos. In my house growing up, we were all massive Billy Connolly fans. And we used to love seeing him play banjo as part of his comedy set. I just adored Billy Connolly. He was like a hero to me, and still is. I've got his biographies. He's a constant source of inspiration. So to me, getting the banjo was a little bit like a nod to Billy Connolly. And, I sat down in my dad's garden, worked out a few bits and bobs, and before I knew it, I was playing with the wrong technique, but I'd figured out enough just to be able to play a few simple kind of skiffle songs on it. And, I couldn't have been happier. So as you can tell, I didn't expect to buy a banjo that day. It came as a complete surprise. I'm sure some people watching this have some good examples where you've just stumbled into like a weird instrument situation and you had to get the thing. If you do have those stories, comment below. We'd love to hear your story. So later on, I started playing in a band called the Old Time String Band, and we were doing kind of lots of folky stuff and some bluesy jazzy stuff. And so the banjo started getting used. I had the wrong technique. I was playing like finger picking it and not the proper frailing style, and I realised from watching Billy Connolly videos that I had it all wrong, so I had to learn. So at the time I had a day job working in an office and was doing gigs at night and a bit of photography, but I wanted to go full time as a musician, and so a friend gave me this book, How to Play the Banjo. And what I did was leave the banjo in my car boot every day, and this book. Then every lunchtime I would take out some packed lunch, eat that for 10 minutes, and spend the next 50 minutes, or the next 47 minutes, practicing banjo, sat at the car with this on the steering wheel, learning all the stuff in the book, and just trying to get like the techniques down and learn all this style of music that I loved. So what is this banjo? So Windsor was a company that was Britain's biggest instrument manufacturer from the late 1800s, well 19th century, up until the 1940s. And they were making massive amounts of instruments, some lower end, but some like this, quite high end actually. And it wasn't until their factory got bombed by the Germans in the war that they ceased production. So this is an Artiste Model 5. It's a really nice quality instrument with what's called a resonator back on it, a lovely neck, some lovely inlays, and it's an interesting sounding instrument. It doesn't have the plunkiness of a open back, but it's got a very nice cutting sound. I actually like this for kind of strumming chords on. It sounds really nice. So I'd spotted this instrument as a kid and then ended up owning it completely by chance. Another thing happened later on regarding this instrument. My local pub in the village of Linthwaite is a great 300-year-old real ale pub called the Sair, and it's probably the most formative place I've ever been in my life. There was a pub washboard for playing music on, a pub acoustic guitar, a pub tea-chest bass, a pub piano. We used to have some great kind of skiffle sessions in there on a Sunday, just anybody could join in. So one Saturday afternoon I did a gig there with the Old Time String Band, and Ron, the owner, after the gig he came and sat down and he took my banjo and he said, "Oh, I love this banjo," and he was strumming it. And he said, "Oh, do you know what? I fell in love with the banjo many years ago and I really should have bought it. It was at that antique shop in Slaithwaite where the curry restaurant is now." And I said like, "Do you remember where it was in the shop?" He said, "Yes, it used to hang on the wall between the two windows on the side wall." And I said, "Yes, this is it." And I told him the story about buying it from the other antique shop in Slaithwaite. And he was kind of like half joking but kind of swearing like, "Oh, you bastard." And I think he even made me an offer on it, but because I was using it for gigs and I'd put a pickup in it, I didn't sell it to him. I said, "Well, I need it for the gigging." Go. That's this week's guitar story. It's not really a guitar story, it's a banjo story, but I hope you've enjoyed it. This is a lovely piece and I don't think I'll ever sell this because it was there all along and it's an interesting story and it cost me nothing. So thank you very much. If you've enjoyed this, then the band is the Washboard Resonators. We play 20s, 30s, blues and jazz and ragtime, and you know, we do this professionally. When COVID hit, we just started making a weekly video as something to do. This is one of them. So subscribe below, comment, like, it really helps share the videos, and find us on the Facebook and the Instagram and the Spotify and all that nonsense. Hopefully see you all again soon, but bye for now.